Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It's the 25th of August, 2025, a Tuesday. These are the WTF reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist, holding the media's feet to the fire because they propagandize and gaslight. They lie. And as a result, you won't be trusted anymore. All right. Welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of the WTF Reports. We're broadcasting live on the Red State Talk Radio Network from 2:05 p.m. until 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 11:05 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific Time. Do the math for in between. And so we're also recording this on video, so it'll be posted at our website, TheWTFReports.com, hopefully within 24, 48 hours, whatever. It's got to render and post and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, like I said, this is going out live, but the phone lines are not open. Not yet. If you're listening live, no, please don't call in right now. It won't do you any good because I didn't open the phone lines. But anyway, so much to get to. There's a lot of reason for people to be PO'd right now. And we're getting hit from the front, the back, the right, the left, the top, the bottom, etc., etc. And the powers that be are doing everything that they can to piss people off. I'm going to start off with a law that was just passed in San Diego. Get this, folks. If you're not happy with what Israel is doing, you can't talk about it. You can't talk about Israel. You can't talk about Bibi Netanyahu. You can't talk about Zionism. You know why? Because it's illegal in San Diego. Anyway, listen to this. This is too much. This is crazy.
If Christianity were about defending a flag, Jesus would have picked up a sword.
Anti-Semitism has been rising in San Diego and across the country. That's according to Jewish organizations and hundreds of speakers at Tuesday's San Diego City Council meeting. Liat Cohen-Reese directs a local anti-Semitism task force. She says defining it is the city's first step to better fight it.
Well, we need language. In order to understand what something is, we need a definition. We need the language.
Nearly everyone who spoke agreed anti-Semitism needs to be combated. They disagreed on how to define it. The city adopted the definition of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or IRA. It's been adopted by dozens of countries and cities across the U.S., including Los Angeles, Chula Vista, and El Cajon. It says anti-Semitism is, quote, a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred. It includes 11 examples. 7 of them involve the state of Israel. Critics say the language has been used to silence criticism of Israel and support for Palestinians. One of those critics is Jewish council member Sean Elo Rivera. He says people must be allowed to both love Jewish people and speak freely against actions by the Israeli government.
A definition that cannot hold both of these things at once is not a tool for fighting anti-Semitism. It is a tool for silencing people who care about everyone.
He urged the council to consider other definitions, but he was outvoted 8-1. For more on this debate and to read the full definition, visit kpbs.org. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
So that's what's going on in San Diego. And don't think it's not going on around the country as well. People frown upon any criticism whatsoever, at least people in your government, about Bibi Netanyahu and, like I said, Zionism or Israel, or the Israelis, or the IDF, or the Mossad. You can't, you can criticize any other government, any other country. You can talk bad about Italy, or Spain, or France, or Brazil, or Turkey, or China. That's okay. But don't you say anything bad about Israel, you'll be in trouble. And we all know that there are now laws in, 36 states that say you cannot boycott Israel? And if you do, you'll never get a contract from any state or city or government officials. Our country has indeed been occupied. There's no doubt about it. And it's not about hating Jews. It's not about hating Jews. Again, I will go through this explanation. Zionism and Judaism are not the same thing. They're not even apples and oranges. They are apples and power tools, all right? Judaism is a religion. Zionism is political dogma. And I've given this example many times, and I'll do it again. If we had Zionism in the United States, let's say we were going to have a Zionist state of Oregon, and Oregon was going to be exclusively for Protestants only, and if you're Protestant, you get to go to Oregon and take any home that you want, and the people that are living there have to leave. And if they don't leave, you get to kill them or unalive them. I can't say, oh gosh, I shouldn't say certain words. And if you are, let's say they're going to have a Zionist state of New York, and the New York was going to be the LGBTQ ABCD plus, minus whatever. So if you're any one of that, you get to go to New York. And if you're not, you have to leave. And if you refuse to do so, they get to physically remove you or kill you. That's what Zionism is. And if you're a Christian out there and you think of yourself as a Zionist Christian, you need to go look in the mirror and figure it out, because it's not real. As a matter of fact, Mike Malloy, he gave a really good example. He's a talk show host, and here's how he explained it to a caller. Her name was Mimi, and she called in. Listen to how Mike Malloy handled this.
When are the Israelis supposed to defend themselves? How can they do that?
Well, wait a second, Mimi. Let me just turn it around and ask you something. You are a family. You have lived in St. Paul, Minnesota for your family and your antecedents for probably, let's say, 100 years. And all of a sudden, I show up on your doorstep, literally on your doorstep. And I say to you, Mimi, get out of this house. This is my house. Let me tell you why it's my house. It's my house because my religion says it's my house. Now get out. Now, I happen to be standing on your doorstep with a gun pointed at your head, and I order you and your family out of your house. And I tell you that it's my house, not your house. And the reason it's my house and my block and my neighborhood is because my religious belief says it's mine. And you sit there and you say, well, no. What are you talking about? We've been here 100 years. I'm sorry. Get out, Mimi. So you leave. And the reason you leave is because you know if you don't, I'm going to blow up your house and probably blow up your family. So you leave and you move down the street. And for the next 60 years, you sit there and you get very, very angry because I came into your house and told you to get out. So what you do, Mimi, you decide, well, I know what I'll do. I'm going to start throwing rocks at what used to be my house, and it'll break the windows. That'll make that damn Malloy move. So you start throwing rocks. And then I come outside and I say, Mimi, were you throwing rocks? And you look at me rather sheepishly, and that's when I level an RPG at you and your family and your house, and I pull the trigger, and all of a sudden, whoosh, you're all gone. Now, which of us is the terrorist?
That's a good question. Which is the terrorist? They just made a directive in Israel, and they're saying now that kites are dangerous. All right, they're classifying kites as in the same category as drones. So any Palestinian child that goes outside and tries to have a little joy in their lives, they can't do that anymore. They can't fly a kite for fear of being droned or bombed or sniped, as if they're not already living with that. These are God's chosen people, right? Right? Come on, folks. And it's not about hating Jews. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. These people, if it's deeds and not words, I shall know ye by your fruits. At least that's what God said. And that's the same God that the Jews have, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And inasmuch that they keep throwing scripture and religion at it, we'll get to some scripture in just a little bit, only because we've been forced to do so. Anyway, so you just heard a really good analogy from Mike Malloy. I also want to draw attention to Oh, what was his name? I got it here. Oh, yes, Wallace Shawn. You remember the movie The Princess Bride? And I tried to find the video clip from, oh gosh, what's his name? He was, my name is Emilia Montoy. You killed my father, and now prepare to die. Remember that guy? Yeah, well, he's pretty, yeah, his name is Plotkin. Yeah, I've got it written down here. Mandy Plotkin. I tried to find a video from him. And by the way, I should remind you that he's Jewish. Well, you know, there was another Jew who was in that movie, and his name is Wallace Shawn. And he made a statement, and here it is, okay? Again, this man is Jewish. As a matter of fact, most of the cast in The Princess Bride was Jewish. And it was produced by Rob Reiner, another Jew, okay? Rob Reiner was Carl Reiner's son, all right? It was mostly a Jewish production. And these Jews are speaking out against Israel. I guess they're all anti-Semites, right? Huh. Anyway, here's Shawn Wallace.
I mean, the Israelis invaded somebody else's territory. They took people's homes, and they did many of the things that the Nazis did to the Jews, and now they're really doing it. You can't be more evil than what they're doing. They are doing evil that is just as great as what the Nazis did, and in some ways it's worse because they kind of boast about it. Hitler had the decency to try to keep it secret. For some reason, Hitler didn't want people to know he was doing these things to the Jews. The Israelis are almost proud of it, and it's demonically evil. It is. Yeah. You can't be more evil. And anybody who doesn't recognize that it's evil, I can't probably communicate with that person. I don't know how. That might be temporary insanity.
Temporary? I don't know. This has been pounded into the brains of the Israelis since their early childhood. This has been going on for 70 years. I mean, these children in Israel are told over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that the Arabs are not human. They're animals. They're to be spit on. They're to be hit, punched, shot at, killed, burned, destroyed, and not only the Arabs, but anything that's on their land needs to be destroyed. Destroy the houses, burn the olive groves, shoot the dogs and the sheep, and tie the donkey behind an RPG or something like that, a Jeep or whatever, and drag the donkey until it's dead. I mean, there's videos of that came out this past weekend. I mean, and like I mentioned on another show, they go, here, kitty, 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 and the kitty runs up, and they kick the cat like it's a football through the goalposts. They're throwing animals off of tall buildings. These are God's chosen people. They call themselves, Jews. But the real Jews, like you just heard, are appalled by this behavior. And sadly, our government is funding all that, which means your tax dollars are paying for it. When does America wake up? When do we get off of our big fat butts and tell our representatives, I don't care how much money they gave you, I don't care how big the bribe was, I don't care if they're threatening your family, I don't care if they got you on video boinking some kid, okay? You got to tell the truth. If you screwed up, then you got to own up to it. I mean, all can be forgiven. Charges can be reduced. But our congressmen and women and our senators, they're up to their eyeballs in this stuff. And I've said it many, many times. There are 3 magic words that are used to manipulate and control people. What are those magic words?
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah. Those are the tools that are being used by these wonderful allies of ours. We send them nearly $4 billion a year. Oh, but there's so much more than that. So much more that they get out of us. And of course, they have free healthcare, free education. They got all kinds of freebies. Their pregnant wives get to stay home, through childhood. They get all kinds of bennies that we don't get. Now let that settle in. And we got most of our congressmen. You remember that the video that was going around that somebody was in the halls of Congress saying, "Excuse me, is it Israel first or America first?" And they scurry away. Or they say Israel first. This is our representatives. How did this happen? Again, those three magic words. But anyway, let's go on. I got another clip here. Let me see. Jen Helper, I'm trying to remember. I got so many clips. Check this one out.
How can a Jew come from Ukraine to Palestine and say, this country is mine, and you Palestinians have no place here? You can't, if you didn't have a story to tell, you'd just be a criminal. You'd be some guy coming in and stealing somebody else's land. Well, I don't want to be that. So to justify what you're doing and explain what you're doing, you develop a whole narrative. God gave us this land, and this is the ancient Israel, and we were driven out by the Romans, and now we're, a whole story like that. The point of it is to allow people to live within that story in a normal way.
The 1948 displacement Halper is describing is well documented. The UN estimates more than 700,000 Palestinians were displaced during the war surrounding Israel's founding, a population large enough that UNRWA was created specifically to respond to it. That refugee population and their descendants now numbers in the millions.
So now Israelis don't have to feel guilty. The Palestinians are, now we wouldn't say resisting, because that gives too much legitimacy. Because we don't recognize the Palestinians as a people. There's just a collection of Arabs there. So what every colonial movement does is it criminalizes the indigenous population. So we're normal, and here are these criminal that are simply attacking us.
Power leaves paper trails. Follow the trail.
See, so people are waking up. The overwhelming majority now of Americans are not feeling too warm and fuzzy towards Israel right now. And of course, the Israel lobbies are working real hard. And of course, Bibi Netanyahu's got billions of dollars to spend towards influencing social media. And see, that's what's basically contributing to the unraveling of their propaganda game that they've successfully executed for the past several decades. But social media, they're basically trying to tell you not to believe your lying eyes. We've seen in 4K what's been going on, or 4D or whatever it is, what's been going on in Palestine. And this is not a war. This is annihilation. This is genocide. Irrefutable. It's undeniable. The whole world sees it. And most of America sees it too. So our elected officials are going to have to wake up and smell the gunpowder. And it's not the U.S. Well, it is the U.S. gunpowder, actually, I was going to say. But anyway, there's more and more reason for people to be standing up and taking notice. And they're getting really pissed off. And by the way, if that offends you, if I say pissed off, you don't even know what the origin of that term means. Piss is in when the heat comes out of the pressure cooker. Anyway, that's another issue altogether. But Colonel Larry Wilkerson is sounding the alarm right now because, as your regular listeners to this broadcast know, I've been talking about the National Defense Authorization Act for months. And first it was Section 219, and then it became Section 224, and then there's other sections in there which are basically merging our military and our intelligence with Israel. And we all know the influence that Israel has already had on our Pentagon, et cetera, et cetera. So this isn't just a merging. This is basically having Israel take over our military. And by the way, I don't need to tell you who's behind all of the surveillance that's going on here and the talk about the flock cameras. Okay, I got something about that a little bit later on. But yeah, it's not just the flock cameras. And if they take flock safety out of the equation, and what's his name? I got it written down here. Oh, Garrett Langley. He's the CEO of Flock Safety. And of course, people are screaming about the flock cameras, the flock cameras. Well, guess what? They've already got another system in the wings ready to take over. It's called Axon. And that's even worse. And all of it is plugged into AI. And all of it is plugged into Palantir. And that's not just those cameras, folks. Do you have a Ring camera? Do you have a Ring camera? Yeah, well, guess what? That's plugged in too. And I think that there are Roombas out there. You know, the little robot vacuum cleaners that go around there, they got cameras on them. Your TV's got cameras on them. Your phone's got a camera on it. It's all plugged in. Everything's being surveilled. And it's being surveilled by the very people that you don't want watching you. So anyway, let me get to Colonel Larry Wilkerson, because he's sounding the alarms, and a lot of people are seeing it. And I have a funny feeling, not a good feeling, that we're going to see copious amounts of fecal matter hitting the air circulators in the near future. So you might want to get out your wellies and your raincoat and your umbrella and get ready, folks, because it ain't going to be pretty. What's on the other side is going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. But we're witnessing the birth of a new age. And along with birth comes labor pains. Anyway, here's retired Colonel Larry Wilkerson. Listen up.
I think 60 to 70% of America now that is under 50 years old that thinks this relationship with Israel is poisonous, which is the pure truth, and wants to do something about it. So it'll take time, and I'm afraid that in that time, a lot of bad things are going to happen. And Mike Johnson and Mitch McConnell and John Thune and others like them are going to have to bear the burden of history in terms of what they've done. They are, in effect, traitors. They are, in effect, traitors. Let me emphasize that word, traitors, because they have betrayed the United States. And Section 224 goes even deeper into it. And I'm quite sure that one's going to make it through, too. So we're looking at a Congress that is betraying the United States of America in a significant way with regard to national security, and I think with regard to domestic tranquility, because we're going to have at least close to, if not an actual civil war over this, if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, he just said it, not me. Again, that's Colonel Larry Wilkerson. And I remind you that, there are those in our government that call this, the Citizens Rule Book, a terrorist document, believe it or not. Why would they call it? What's in the Citizens Rule Book? Well, first off, there's the handbook for juries. There are also quotes from the United States Supreme Court through the history. There's also the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. This, dear listeners and viewers, has been considered by some in your government as an extremist terrorist document. Why do they fear it? Well, because it says, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. And that's putting it as politely as they could put it without sounding like domestic terrorists. Of course, they were called domestic terrorists, but they said they instructed us to throw off such government, not vote them out, not petition, okay, not lobby. No. You throw them out. You discard them. You eliminate them. You delete them. And you can take any of those phrases any way that you want. You know, our revolution wasn't fought with, bad words and impolite statements. No, that's not how we got our country. And that's not how we're going to get, it's how we get our country back. Anyway, I'm going to take a short break. I got more where this came from. Stay with me. Okay, that's this one here.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contact contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And you can get more Tank by visiting our website, TheWTFReports.com. Don't forget the word the, T-H-E, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors button. It'll take you down to an area where you can click on Get More Tank and read all the specifications and details about why this fuel catalyst works. It's not an additive, it's a catalyst. It makes your fuel burn differently. It burns at a slightly lower temperature, it burns more efficiently, and it cleans your engine. So number one, when you start using it, you'll notice right off the bat that when you hit your accelerator, your vehicle actually takes off. That's number one, you get more power. Number two, like I just mentioned, the burn is more efficient and it cleans out your engine. So that's good for the environment. It's a cleaner running engine. But the biggie is number three. You're going to see an improvement in your mileage. After a few tanks of this, you'll start to see that your engine has adjusted to its new efficiency, and you're going to see anywhere between 15 and 20% improvement in your mileage. Which means when you purchase Get More Tank with our promo code REDPILL101, it's going to cost you $20 for 5 tablets. Once you've used it a couple times, you use 1 tablet per tank. So if you see a 20% increase in your mileage, of course that depends on your make, model, and year of vehicle and your driving habits, but if you see a 20% increase of your mileage, that means the 5th tank is free. It's a no-brainer, folks. Your engine runs cleaner, you get more power, you get better mileage. So there's no reason not to be using Get More Tank. And it works in diesel engines as well. Plus it'll work in your riding mower, your chainsaw, anything that runs on fuel. Get More Tank will make it run better. So go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on Get More Tank, and get more tank. Okay, it's 32 minutes past the hour, whatever hour you're sitting in. And again, we're broadcasting live on the Red State Talk Radio Network, and we do so Monday through Friday at 12 noon until 1 p.m., and that's Mountain Time. Again, it's from 2 p.m. until 3 Eastern Time, or from 11 until 12 noon Pacific Time. And this is being videotaped to be posted at our website, TheWTFReports.com. So when you want to see these video clips, I'm dealing with the facts, folks. That's why it's WTF, with the facts. I'm showing you I show documents, I show the video clips. It's not Dave saying this. Yes, I do have my opinion, but it's based upon documentation and evidence and history. But anyway, that said, got a couple more things I want to get to, and let's see if I can get to the phones. They're not open yet, but we'll take a look. We'll check that out in a couple minutes. Okay, we've been talking about this issue about Zionism versus Judaism. And people are starting to figure out that the Zionist state of Israel is not in any way, shape, or form following the Torah or the Bible. No, they're following a whole different bunch of scriptures called the Talmud and the Zohar. And those are not, shall we say, those are not the Word of God. And I'll get to that in a couple seconds. But there was, remember Robert David Steele, rest his soul? I don't know why he passed so early in his life, but he's a former CIA analyst and intel officer, and he was exposing the child sex trafficking and the satanic cults, etc., etc. And he's also been talking about how those cults have, shall we say, infiltrated into government, not just ours, but maybe Israel's as well. Here's Robert David Steele.
Zionism is the enemy. The deep state is the enemy. Banks are the enemy. I believe the American public is now ready to throw Zionists out of the United States of America. Let me give you just two examples that have recently come to public attention. There is legislation before Congress that makes it a felony, a major crime, to criticize Israel and call for a boycott of Israel. Every member of Congress who has co-sponsored that legislation is likely to lose the next election. People will no longer tolerate putting Israel first. The second major example, we have 23 states in the United States that will not give citizens disaster relief or a contract with the state unless they sign a loyalty pledge to Israel, which is to say they sign a pledge that says they have never boycotted Israel, they will never boycott Israel in the future. This is Israel first, not America first, across 23 states. These are the kinds of things that all Americans are now starting to understand. So I believe that there is a major need for an educational push toward the American public. We need to all agree that Zionism is the enemy.
And indeed it is. And by the way, that video clip was made a couple of years ago. It's not 23 states. Now it's 36. It could be more than that. It's been reported on RT. And by the way, where are you getting your news? Where are you getting your news? Are you watching the alphabet networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, FOX, MSNBC, or whatever it is now? If you're watching that, keep in mind that if you consume intellectual fecal matter, you're going to end up with stuff for brains. They're lying to you. They're propagandizing you. And that's why, I've been screaming about this for decades, that the media lies. That's what they do. And they are also controlled by the same group of people that's been influencing your Congress, your Senate, your president, and they've infiltrated just about every facet of our society. Look who's controlling the media. Look who's controlling big pharma. Look who's controlling big oil. Look who's controlling the banks and your money. Are you getting it yet? And that it's not America first. No. As a matter of fact, I should have made a clip. Again, I refer you to, Harrison Smith's video documentary, The Eighth Front. As a matter of fact, let me see if I could pull it up here. I think I have it here. Just the beginning of it. Because I was talking about this right after he put it out a few months ago, and now Jimmy Dore was talking about it on his show. Anyway, let me see. Let me check.
Sunday school curriculum.
Okay, let me cue this up. I'm going to take it right to the very beginning because some of those clips that are stated, some of the statements by Bibi Netanyahu are very telling. Check this out. Here it is. Okay, this is the Eighth Front.
I think there's another revolution coming. I tend to steer it along with the achievement of a broader peace. When history is within reach.
So what Israel is fighting here is not merely a seven-front war, but an eighth-front war.
Listen carefully.
The Jews against Rome. Rome and Jerusalem clashed over values with a great tragedy for the Jewish people. Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one. But the new Rome, the United States, Jews against Rome.
We stopped playing defense and have moved to offense.
Yeah.
Change over time.
Anyway, it's the Jews against Rome. That's from Bibi Netanyahu. The Jews against Rome. And then you heard him say Rome is the United States. So I have to ask the question, is Israel our greatest ally, or are they a mortal enemy? We need to really ask that question and go by what they tell you. It's right in your face. So anyway, it's time to actually start defying these people because they have manipulated and twisted the scriptures to suit them. As a matter of fact, there was a guy that made the following post. I'm going to share this with you, and I think he's pretty dead on the money. I don't agree with 100%, and I'll tell you why afterwards. But the bottom line here is it's time for America to wake up and realize that, yes, we are in a holy war, not of our doing, of their doing. Ever since October 7th, by the way, that we are now coming to understand that, yes, indeed, that was the Hannibal Directive. The Hannibal Directive, of course, you attack your own people and blame your enemy wannabe. and that justifies your annihilation of the enemy. That's exactly what's going on. And all the information is coming out. And I've been talking about this for months and months on this broadcast. Charlie Kirk knew about it. That's one of the reasons why I believe they had him killed. And no, it wasn't Tyler Robinson. Oh, by the way, this past couple of weeks, there's a lot of controversy about how Charlie died. Was he killed by a 30-06 or was he killed by an exploding microphone? Well, the issue here is the narrative is that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. And anybody who doubts that or challenges that, people are saying, well, then what really happened? Well, you have to come up with what really happened. No, we don't. What we have to do is figure out if Tyler Robinson actually killed him. Is Tyler Robinson guilty of killing Charlie Kirk? Is the narrative correct, or is it a fabrication? If we prove that it's a fabrication, then that opens up the door for an investigation down a new avenue. But there are too many people out there saying, well, if you don't know what it is, you can't talk about it. I heard this crap 20-odd years ago when I was on the front lines of the 9/11 truth movement. Oh, if you don't know what it is, you shouldn't talk about it. Well, if we don't talk about it, we'll never know what it is. But anyway, that's I digress. I want to talk to you a little bit, or let this gentleman talk to you about what it is to be defiant. Now, you just heard Colonel Wilkerson say, look, we may see a revolution in this country over this issue. And we better know what side we're standing on, because if you don't understand what's going on, you might end up being on the wrong side. This gentleman has some good points to make. Listen up.
If Christianity were about defending a flag, Jesus would have picked up a sword. But he didn't. He picked up a cross. And yet somehow a movement that's supposed to follow that man, a man that said, my kingdom is not of this world, has decided that protecting a modern nation state called Israel is the center of Christian duty. That blessing it, defending it, and justifying it at all costs is some holy assignment carved into the marrow of the gospel. But I'll say it plainly, Christianity does not require allegiance to the state of Israel. That's not heresy, that's scripture. In the Bible, Israel was not a place first, it was a person. It was Jacob wrestling with God by a river until dawn, scarred by truth and renamed by grace. Israel meant one who struggles with God, and it became the name of a people, not a flag. Not a government, not a modern nation carved out in 1948 by colonial politics and American guilt. The word carried spiritual identity. It meant those called into covenant with God. It had nothing to do with missiles or borders or UN resolutions. When the modern state was named Israel, it was not a return to biblical obedience. It was a calculated decision, an intentional conflation of nationalism with theology. It was branding, and a powerful one because it worked. Because now when people hear Israel, they imagine sacred continuity. They imagine divine appointment. They imagine the Old Testament alive and well in 2025, and they are wrong. The Israel of the Hebrew Scriptures was not a Western-backed nuclear power. It was a wandering tribe, a nation in exile, a people constantly called back to justice, humility, and mercy, and often condemned for chasing empire. The prophets didn't worship Israel. They rebuked it. Over and over and over again, for war, for greed, for turning their back on the poor and the foreigner. You know, the same things modern Israel does with American funding now. The idea that Christians are commanded to bless the state of Israel is not in the Gospels. It is not in the epistles. It is not in the teachings of Jesus Christ. It's in the talking points of televangelists and the foreign policy of end-time grifters. The Gospel does not preach that God's blessings is tied to the modern border of Tel Aviv or the Iron Dome. Jesus never said, blessed are those who back Likud. Paul never wrote that all who oppose military action are cursed. The early church wasn't fundraising for defense systems or declaring settlements on stolen land as prophetic fulfillment. And yes, the Old Testament speaks of Israel as God's chosen people. And yes, land was part of that covenant. But in Christian theology, the story shifts. The covenant widens and the veil tears. And the new Israel, the church, is defined not by soil but by spirit. Not by war, but by witness. And it is made up of anyone from anywhere who walks in faith. Jew, Gentile, Arab, Roman, enslaved, free, all in one Christ Jesus. The New Testament doesn't tell Christians to defend a country. It tells them to defend the poor, to defend the outcast, to walk with the wounded, to make peace, not justifications for war, to see the face of God not in a flag, but in the suffering child behind the rubble. And yet today, American Christians fly Israeli flags next to crosses as if those things belong together. They equate criticism of the Israeli government with blasphemy. They pretend that military aid is a sacrament and that genocide is somehow covered under the blood of covenant promise. And Christ weeps at that lie, because if the gospel means anything, it means you do not get to use God as a shield for political violence. You do not get to bomb refugee camps and quote Jeremiah. You do not get to drop white phosphorus and call it fulfillment. That's not Christianity, that's idolatry. This doesn't mean you have to hate Israel. It doesn't mean you can't believe in its right to exist, but it does mean that if you are a follower of Christ, your loyalty cannot be to any nation, not even one with a biblical name. Your loyalty is to justice, to truth, to love that doesn't end at a checkpoint or a drone feed. Jesus didn't die so the modern church could become a lobby group. He didn't rise so we could bless bombs. He didn't preach love for the least of these so we could side with whoever has better tanks. And if your church is preaching that blessing Israel is the key to God's favor, then you're not in church. You're in a cult, praying to a carved-up God who only speaks Hebrew and votes Republican. The gospel doesn't ask you to bless a nation. It does ask you to bless the peacemakers, to comfort the mourners, to defend the innocent, and reject violence dressed as virtue. There is no divine nation, there is only divine love. And if you think that love stops at a border fence or a flagpole or the edge of a crater where children used to live, then you don't know Christ at all. Defiance till death.
Yeah, defiance till death. I find that a very fitting statement. And you know, it's always ego and pride that prevents people from moving forward. It's okay to be wrong once in a while. I've been wrong. I've had to change my beliefs several times, numerous times, countless times in my lifetime. And this is an opportunity for growth. Don't let your ego or your pride get in between you and changing your mind. It's like there are some people that go through life with an exclamation point over their head because they know. You can't tell them anything because they already know. Exclamation point. You can't tell me. I already know. Okay? Other people go through life with a question mark over their head because they want to know. And I'd like to think of myself as one of those people. Yeah, I can be stubborn sometimes, and so can you. And so can a lot of other people who happen to believe that Zionism and Christianity somehow can work together. But I promise you, Christians that are standing behind Zionism, you see what's going on in Palestine right now and in South Lebanon and what's been going on in the Middle East for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. It'll come here. They already have the infrastructure in place to execute the same activity that we see is going on over there in the Middle East. I just mentioned to you the flock cameras, the surveillance, everything. As a matter of fact, I'm going to jump ahead of myself. There was a guy that testified, or shall I say, made his comment in California, and he spelled it out really good in regard to these flock cameras. And I'll get back on track in a minute, but check this one out.
Now, I'm going to be a little bit meaner than them, so please don't violate my rights. Normally, I wouldn't come to a city council meeting. I'm one of the county's pains in the ass. Historically, I stay out of the city, and the city stays out of my business. It was a pretty decent arrangement. But then y'all sent me one of these tickets from one of your AI red light cameras you have deemed as necessary infrastructure in your city. Thing about this is I was in Seminole, Alabama at the time I allegedly ran this red light downtown. How can I be in two places at once, you ask? Don't worry, I asked myself that too. Outside of Scotty beaming me up 30 miles in an instant, the only logical conclusion is I wasn't there. These things have been deemed unconstitutional for this reason, because the enforcement action of 316.0083 unduly shifts the burden of proof to the vehicle owner, me, to prove my innocence rather than the state having to prove my guilt. Currently, I'm guilty by default. I've been convicted by a computer program. Usually this whole mess of who committed the infraction is settled by a police officer pulling somebody over and actually witnessing them in the driver's seat. The AI camera doesn't do any driver verification whatsoever. To get your constitutionally mandated due process, you have to jump through hoops put up by Automated Enforcement Division, a private company in Orlando that's owned by another corporation called Novoa Global, which is owned by a Chilean-Swedish millionaire named Carlos Hofstedt. So not only does this process flow through a private company, our DMV records and personal registration information are accessible by a foreign actor. But anyway, AED sends you this paper, and if you want to fight this thing because you're wrongfully accused, me again, you can't just request a hearing through PPD or the courthouse. Remember, Carlos is involved, so if you have to go through his company, his website, print off his paper, fill it out with enough information to take out a home loan, have it notarized, mail it to the foreign actor, Carlos in Orlando, and then wait for something from someone to tell you about a hearing. This is undue burden even to begin to try to get some kind of due process. Paying is super easy though, go figure. And about that, you can't pay cash. PPD doesn't accept it, and neither does Carlos. According to 31 USC 5103, all U.S. currency and coins must be accepted for all government obligations, fines, fees, taxes, and due. So not only does this whole thing violate constitutional due process, it violates federal law by not accepting U.S. currency to satisfy a government action. Whoever thought this was a good idea is a self-loathing, America-hating, bureaucratic hobgoblin whose pockets probably got stacked with Carlos bucks. You got my attention, though. I'm going to become a more frequent voice down here working to expose frauds and petty tyrants. Congratulations, you all got yourselves a new pain in the ass.
I love it. Kudos. Well, this is just another example of how we, the people, have to get involved in our local government. And I promise you, this isn't just the federal government in Washington. It's not just your state representatives and your state senators. And it doesn't come down to your county supervisors, et cetera, et cetera. And it comes down to your city government. They are all doing it. They're all getting their marching orders, whether they, So that's why I'm saying, remember the old saying, think globally, act locally? Well, that's what we have to do. As a matter of fact, I acted locally last week. Let me see, do I have time to play this? Yeah, why not? I went to the city council meeting in Kalispell, and they were having an open comment period about the possibility of putting the flock cameras in Kalispell and in our county, in our valley. Anyway, here's what I said when I went up to the city council in Kalispell last week.
My name is Dave vonKleist at 106 Mill in Whitefish, and I am a 30-year veteran of radio broadcasting. I'm doing a daily show on the Red State Talk Radio Network, and I'm also doing a podcast. I've been covering this issue very closely for the past 2 months, and I come with the receipts and the documents. First of all, I appreciate your effort here to ease our pain a little bit and our concern about some of the restrictions that you'll have in these surveillance cameras, but I see it as the camel's nose under the tent. A law is only as good as those who abide by them. And right off the bat, I want to point out that in Los Angeles, they have now pulled all contracts for the flock cameras. That's not to say they might not be replacing them with Axon, which is a step above those. Also, the state of Connecticut is now pulling all their flock cameras because of public concerns. Ben Jordan, who's a security researcher, has basically stated that, yes, these cameras are not just, they call them license plate readers, but there's so much more than that. And especially with the new generation of Axon, now they are able to ping cars going by. They can get into your cell phone, your tablet, your computer, etc. Josh Thomas, who's the chief state safety commissioner for Flock, tries to assure everybody that this is not happening, but the news reports that are coming in from affiliate stations from all over the country, and I will list them: Albany, Georgia; Atlanta; San Diego; Milwaukee; DeKalb; Fayetteville; Dayton, Ohio; Red Bays; Huntington, West Virginia; and Orlando, just to name a few. Police officers and people in city government have been either put on suspension, fired, or arrested for the misuse of these cameras because they've been using them to stalk children, their girlfriends, and their ex-wives. Again, laws are only as good, or only good enough for people who abide by them. Also, Will Freeman, who is in charge, who started the D-Flock Corporation, has listed over 880,000 flock cameras are now in operation around the United States. And from what I understand, there's a few of them right here in the box stores in the Lowe's parking lot. Could be wrong about that, but I looked it up on a map and it seems that they're there. Garrett Langley, who's the CEO of Flock Safety, has basically called anybody who protests against these things domestic terrorists. He claims that he wants to abide by the law, and I would like to remind him and everyone else who's considering these flock cameras that we have a Fourth Amendment, and that guarantees our privacy. And you may recall Ben Franklin said those who sacrifice their privacy for a little security deserve neither privacy or liberty. Liberty for security deserve neither liberty or security. Neil Picaro, who's a Rhode Island police officer, was forced to retire or to basically resign because they demanded that he sign an NDA not to disclose what was going on with the placement of these flock cameras. And with that, I also want to point out that there is a significant error rate with these flock cameras. There are several people who have been pulled over and arrested at gunpoint because the flock camera misread their license plate, making a mistake for an O for a 0, for example. So I see this as a camel's nose under the tent, and this is not just a violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is an attack on the Fourth Amendment. And of course, you've all taken an oath. I would certainly hope it's been certified and properly registered, et cetera. And to go ahead and pass something like this, I think a lot of us here would see this as a direct violation of your oath of office to go ahead and put this into place. So that's basically, I said, I'm here with the facts. You can fact check any of this stuff that I've just mentioned here. And I certainly hope you'll make the right decision and do away with any discussion about this type of surveillance, because they're not just for the license plates. I don't want to see children being stalked. We know that's a big problem in this country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir, for your public comment.
Yeah, and since that time, okay, that was last week, and I was watching NBC News a couple nights ago. They have a late night, I forget what it is, this pretty girl that gives the news, but they were discussing how many violations of privacy these flock cameras have been guilty, or shall I say the people operating the flock cameras have been guilty of. It's across the board. And it's not just, rogue police officers, it's city officials. And they're stalking their ex-girlfriends, they're stalking their ex-wives, and many of these flock cameras are not even aimed at the traffic. They're aimed at walking paths and bike paths and schoolyards and swimming pools. Let that settle in. They want to know what your schedules are and when you're dropping off your kids and when you're picking up your children. That's what's going on. And it's all because of this little blue state that's on the other side of the world right now, basically lying to us and manipulating us, et cetera, et cetera. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why we are in Iran right now. Let me see, have I got time for this last clip? Yeah. Senator Warner made the following statement in regard to this war in Iran. And remember, we were told over and over again that they did not have nuclear weapons, despite of what Bibi said. And then we sent over the B-2 bombers and bombed the snakes not out of that area where they said that they were building the nuclear weapons. Anyway, here's Senator Warner.
Let's also be clear. I've said before, I've said now, there was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel. We equate a threat to Israel as the equivalent of an imminent threat to the United States, then we are in uncharted territory. We have seen the goals for this operation change now, I believe, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, so there you go, folks. Okay, I got through the hour. I got all my stuff in. Actually, I had some more, but I don't know. I'll do it later. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a replay of today's show. I have some other obligations I have to take care of. So you folks listening on Red State Talk Radio, you are well aware now. You are now alerted that tomorrow will be a replay. So anyway, if you're listening on Rumble or BitChute or Facebook or YouTube, you know what to do. Click like, share, subscribe, and above all else, spread the word. Word of mouth is the best advertising. And yes, speaking of advertising, do business with our sponsors or pick up some of our merch. We got coffee cups, t-shirts, and baseball caps. And if you like the program, you can even make a donation to our GoFundMe. All right, that said, we're flat out of time. God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and God willing, I'll see you on Thursday.